what is the smallest molded case circuit breaker that you can get an arc reduction maintenance switch on? That's the topic of today's video. The first thing we have to get, I think, understand in our head is when I say an electronic trip unit, what am I talking about? What part of a molded case circuit breaker am I speaking to? So an electronic trip unit is something like this. This is what you would find down here on the bottom of this circuit breaker. This device, and you got to put it the right way. It's not this way, it's that way. Sits right here. Okay, that is an electronic trip unit. That would be something that you could put on a breaker like this. So this is a PXR25 trip unit. This is a PXR20. So now the PXR20 has an arc reduction maintenance switch. It has an arc reduction maintenance switch. It has one right there. That's the arc reduction maintenance switch. Notice all of the other interfaces, these are just rotary dials that adjust the settings on how fast this responds to currents that pass through. This little nub right here, and there is a push to trip button right here. There's the push to trip button, and that pops up. I push the trip button, and it pops up. This is what opens the circuit breaker. That's your trip. There's also one on this breaker. Press trip button, and that pops up. My current, this sits in the breaker like this. The current comes through here, goes through these three sensors that are built into the device right here. And then these are the lugs that you put your load conductors on. This is the brain. Inside of here is a microprocessor board. You can almost see the green board right there. So this is the microprocessor, the brain that tells this guy when to trip. And all of that happens right down here on the bottom. There's your load, and these are your line lugs. So these trip units, these brains, that will tell you the functionality of the circuit breaker. This device will open everything up here. The mechanism will open when that brain tells it to open. So what we will do is we are going to go to the catalog to figure out what is the smallest overcurrent protected device that we can use and leverage an arc reduction maintenance switch. So let's take a look at our catalog. This is our molded case circuit breaker catalog. And you'll notice that the Power Defense molded case circuit breakers, Power Defense, that's the that's our latest circuit breakers that are on the market. We have 6 frame sizes. We have 1 through 6. Each frame size has a range of currents for the size of the breaker. The size 1 goes up to 125, size 2 to 225, size 3 to 600, then 800, 1200, and 2500. Because of 240.87, all breakers 1200 amps and above have to have what? An arc reduction maintenance switch or one of those other technologies. Telling you, every one of these are going to have an arc reduction maintenance switch. The question we have, or how small of a circuit breaker can we get that has that same technology on it? So let's take a look. If I look at trip units or trip unit configurations, we have the thermomagnetic. That is your base unit. thermomagnetic only circuit breakers, you're not going to find an arc reduction maintenance switch. You'll notice that it has an adjustable magnetic setting. When you hear adjustable magnetic, you're hearing the adjustable instantaneous. That is the portion of the trip curve for very high fault currents that commands the device to respond without an intentional delay. But the fault currents have to be high enough to get that to happen. That's the challenge with an arc flash. When you have an arc flash event, if your voltage fault currents are low enough, your arcing currents aren't in that magnetic region, and hence you'll have a longer delay time, and hence you'll have higher incident energy. PXR10, all of the advantages of an electronic trip unit, and they focus on easy setup. And when someone says, hey, this is easy setup, you know what that means? Minimal functionality. The more functions you put on a circuit breaker or a trip unit, the more complicated the device is going to become. Now, you'll notice here it says LSI. What is LSI? LSI, L is for long time pickup, S is a short time pickup, and I is instantaneous. You'll sometimes see LTPU for long time pickup, STPU, short time pickup, and then INST for instantaneous. So that's your PXR10, and then you get up, when you go to the PXR20, you're moving up in functionality. It's a fully adjustable trip unit with LSI and LSIG. So LSI, long time, short time, instantaneous. When you add the G, that is ground fault. This just happens to be a PXR20, and it has ground fault on it. There's your trip unit. This is a PXR20. Those are all the settings. And this is actually an ALSIG. A is for arc flash reduction. L is for long time. S is for short time. I is for instantaneous, and G is for ground fault. So this is packed with features. PXR20, again, there's your arc flash reduction maintenance system and zone selective interlocking. I keep calling it an arc flash reduction maintenance switch, but actually we call it an arc flash reduction maintenance system. It is what it is, what it is, what it is. All right, so there's your PXR20. And then obviously you have a, well, you can keep going up in functionality. You have a PXR20D, fine. Then you have the PXR25, and the PXR25 is this one. And it has additional capabilities. It has a 1% accuracy because it'll do energy monitoring for you as well. It has programmable relays, and it has an arc flash reduction maintenance switch on it, capabilities as well. Now here's your breaker frames. A PD1 will get you from 15 to 125 amps. PD2 goes up to 225 amps. PD3 goes up to 600 amps. A PD4 goes up to 800 amps. A PD5 goes to 1200, and then finally the PD6 goes up to 2500. So remember I told you, PXR20 is the one that gets you the arc flash reduction maintenance technology. All right, so where do I go next? The trip unit. So this is the technical data, frame sizes 1 and 2. So we know what 1 and 2 is. Frame size 1 goes up to 125 amps. And look at we're gonna look for the trip unit. It's not interchangeable. It's fixed. Thermomagnetic is fixed. And that's what I was telling you earlier. Remember, some of these circuit breakers, thermomagnetic circuit breakers, it is, what it was, what it shall be, and it will never be anything different. It's marked on the handle. It is a 20 amp breaker. It is a 100 amp breaker. It won't be anything other than a 20 or a 100 amp breaker. It's the basic of basic of basics. So that's what you've got here. And look, you have no other functionalities. Same thing over here. Now this is a 225 amp. Now you're getting a larger frame, and look, there's nothing down here for the electronic trip unit. Okay, this is the brain. This is what you're looking for. And this device does not have that capability right in there, right? This device does not have that capability right in there either. So, frame sizes. Now the functionality on this, okay, it doesn't have an interchangeable trip unit. Doesn't have an interchangeable trip unit. It's fixed thermomagnetic. And for motor circuit protectors, you have an adjustable magnetic. You have LSI, there's your motor, MLSI, LSIG. You can get ground fault protection of equipment on that. You can get ground fault protection of equipment, and you can get, for a motor circuit protector, some adjustability, but that's it. That's it. You're not gonna find the arc reduction maintenance switch on these two units, right? So now let's scroll down and let's take a look at frame size PD3, which is a 400 amp frame breaker. So frame size 3, look at this and look at, there's the magic right there. There's the magic. Oh gosh, I love it. Look at that. Arc flash reduction maintenance switch. ALSI, arc flash reduction maintenance switch, long time, short time, instantaneous. And if you throw the G in, throw that G in there, that's ground fault protection of equipment. And we'll do another session, short session, on when should you specify a ground fault protection of equipment. So there we go. I would say we found the answer to our questions. Because look, frame size up to 600 amps. Looky, ALSI right there. This is 800 amps. Look, ALSI. Love it. There we go. This up to 1600 amps. Frame size 5. ALSI. ALSI on this one. And what does this go up to? 2500 amps. The answer to our question is I can go down to as low as a 400 amp frame, but thermomagnetic down to 100 amps, down to 45 amps on electronics. That means you take a device like this, and it's a 400 amp frame breaker. And then based on Article 240, I can adjust it down to 100 amps, put 100 amps worth of conductor on it, and that becomes a 100 amp rated breaker. And I have an arc flash reduction maintenance switch on it. But it works at 2 times off of the 400 amps. So the arc flash reduction maintenance switch would pick up somewhere around 800 amps, maybe a little bit higher than 800 amps. But that is a pretty doggone low setting to provide reduction of incident energy. It reduces risk because it reduces the severity, not the likelihood, it reduces severity. Remember what I said in the beginning. My goal here is to tell you what is the arc flash, what is the smallest molded case circuit breaker that I have that you can put an arc flash reduction maintenance switch on, and that just happens to be a 400 amp frame circuit breaker. That can be adjusted way down even lower. All right, so I think I fulfilled my goal. I think I added some more clarity to the last video, and hopefully you got something out of this session. So I really appreciate you hanging all the ways in there to the end. And if you're here right now, then that means you enjoyed this. That means that you stuck around for some reason, which I can't figure out. Subscribe, hit the bell. Don't forget, please hit that bell, subscribe. Check out my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my YouTube channel. Go out to thomasdimitrovich.com. If you want to go to YouTube, you go to youtube.com/@TD Unplugged, or go to www.tdunplugged.com and check out my website as well. I could try to put as much resources out there for you and as much information, because together we can make a difference in this electrical industry. We can make it safer together. So thanks for what you do for the electrical industry. Thanks for what you do for electrical safety. And remember to stay safe, and please stay healthy. And I will see you online or maybe in person at some time in the near future. Take care.